maybe get started. And as usual with our CubeSys discussion format, just some reminders. We do record this session, so it will be available afterwards if you want to share it with colleagues and friends and or remind yourself of some of the content. Please do feel free to ask questions. Right? We do like these things to be interactive. We've got some great speakers with us today, which I'll introduce in a second. Post-event, we'll send out the links to videos and slide decks, etc. So you can expect that from our marketing team. Just a little bit of formalities first. I'd like to start by saying I begin today by acknowledging the traditional custodians of the Gadigal land, online and offline, on which we meet today, and pay my respects to both the elders past and present. With that, let's get on to our speakers. I'm very pleased and thank you guys for taking the time to be with us today. I'll start with Lex. Lex, would you like to give a short intro of who you are and what your role is?
Sure, thanks, Paul. Thank you for inviting me. So I'm Lex, and so I'm from Canberra. So I've been with Canberra for about 9 years now, and we started our partnership with CubeSys back in 2019. So and it's been a great partnership, and it's constantly evolving. So yeah,
awesome. Well, thanks, Lex. Next, we'll move to Daniel. Daniel, do you want to? And that sounds formal, doesn't it? It's usually Dan, isn't it?
It does. I must be in trouble, Paul. Definitely in trouble, mate.
Maybe.
Dan Castle here. Look, I joined SCIA back in 2021, mid-COVID. Joined as our CIO, but have subsequently taken over a few other different parts of the organisation. So, executive director there. Our partnership with CubeSys extended prior to my time, but has certainly grown since I've joined the ranks. So, very happy to discuss all things cloud managed services, Paul, and how you guys have helped us achieve a bunch of different things. So, looking forward to it.
Looking forward to getting into it. And we've also invited along Ian Baxter, who's our Associate Director of Delivery. Ian, do you want to give a quick intro?
Yeah, sure. Okay, as Paul said, my name's Ian. I've been in the IT world for longer than I like to think about, 25, 20, more like 30, getting on for 30 years now. Predominantly in the end user compute business enablement function, front of house of IT, service desks, end user compute, packaging, and the business engagement side of IT. Always been very passionate about making IT enabling a business rather than being an underlying support function, a key part of the business. And I've been with CubeSys for about, must be coming up about 3.5 years now. I've worked at CubeSys.
Now, Ian, we often do this, so we can replay this game again. Like, so when, and I'm quite interested in you explaining being a client of CubeSys as well for today, because I think that's important, right? So we came across each other and you in several different roles, and you dragged CubeSys in quite large enterprises, right? And yeah. We often joked about you coming and joining us at some point. But you had to tell me, and I still think that you were keen to join, and you still think I was headhunting you, but I'm not quite sure who's right then.
I think we've kind of landed on it being very mutual now. But yes, who was chasing who?
I'm more interested in why you kept coming back to CubeSys when you moved these roles around some of those large enterprises, and you were in some big financial institutions and in universities and things, and you dragged us in. Could you tell us a bit why? Because I think that's going to be important as we go through the rest of the slides today.
Yeah, sure. Look, most of my management experiences in large enterprises, some large international, very large international 10,000 person businesses. And then about 8-9 years ago, I decided to start enjoying the delivery function. I went off and started doing project delivery work, and really on the start of the kind of cloud world, say 2012, 2013, with the very early days of Office 365, starting to help businesses take advantage of those cloud environments. And there's a lot of stuff around activity-based working, and like I say, I'm very big on AV, the user experience, and how users interact with IT. So getting some partners at the time to try and work with me on that was quite difficult. The larger organizations were not that advanced in that area. And I personally don't like working with very large IT consulting firms because they're very restrictive and very contractual and very slow to move. And I think we met each other when I worked at one of those organizations, and we kind of, the general way CubeSys operates just initially just instantly clicked with me. It was very collaborative, it was very fast, it was very the ability to move, which is what you need in a cloud environment. There's a lot of big project deliveries. We know where we want to be, but we're going to do a lot of zigzagging on the way. Traditional project delivery doesn't really allow for that, and like the large MSPs and the large technology providers don't allow for that either. Very strict scopes, very strict. So it's very we work very well together on that. I know we said we're going this way, but now I need to go over that way a bit and then come back and then do this. And I've got this requirement and this is changing. And CubeSys were excellent at working with us together on that. It was all about the outcome, all about the outcome.
And that's what I really wanted you to say, really, is our focus is, and it's true for our managed service business, which we've subsequently built inside CubeSys, is that you've got to listen to the client and you've got to work out what their outcome is and what they need, right? And our job is to get the technology to achieve as much of that as possible. So thank you for that. Now, I'm going to jump on a couple of slides just to maybe help set that scene a bit and why we're talking today about those cloud managed services. And then I'm going to shut up and get some insight from our guests, right? I did put together or pull some industry stats there, and I'm not going to spend forever on these slides, and there's some we'll send them out afterwards, and there's the sources in there as well. But I did want to point out the first and the last one there, right? There's still a huge amount of companies that need to adopt cloud, right, and get the best out of it, right? And there's still a lot of companies moving towards cloud. There's over 80% of companies so going there. There's more services moving towards cloud. Right, and we'll talk about why that's beneficial with these guys shortly. But there's also, I think, a realization in the industry that you can't have all that skill that you need to do that, particularly if you're in the smaller enterprise space and that sort of 50 to 200, 500 seats. It's really, really difficult to have that broad set of skills that you need. So 56% of companies are looking to look for an external provider to help with that, right? So there's some industry trends there. The next one, sorry, let me get to the slides. So as we're considering that cloud journey and the challenges we have there, right? It's interesting that a lot of the old traditional providers are struggling to make that leap and that change, because again, that skills gap and the knowledge of cloud maybe isn't as some of the providers find it hard to be as agile as you need to be in cloud, as Ian was just describing, and we're still in that break fix mentality. And what we really want to be doing is looking at how we can leverage the capabilities of cloud to enhance the business. And again, we're going to come to that in a few seconds, right? But I just want to set that scene a little bit there and get you thinking, and then draw your attention to our vision statement. CubeSys sat down as a company about 4 or 5 years ago, and we did this in a sort of intercompany workshop, and we came up with our mission statement and our vision statement. And I brought up our vision statement today because I really want to emphasize that democratizing secure cloud solutions. What we want to do for our client base is bring that enterprise experience and agility that Ian just talked about into smaller enterprises, because when you buy a license from Microsoft and you buy the M365 license, you get a tremendous amount of capability, right? What you need is the knowledge to be able to turn it on and do so in a secure manner and release that into your workforce, right? And so we as a company sort of sat down and wrote this statement. That's what we want to try and achieve, and that's what we're here to try and do with our businesses and our partners. Ian, do you want to add anything else to that and talk about how we came up with the democratizing and what it means to you?
Yeah, so this is very important, Matt. I saw this very early in the cloud journey that I took, and what I learned with project delivery is about, like Paul just said, is we went from an environment where you could have the vision to do something, but then you had to go and find an enormous amount of capex to do something with it, and spending that was way beyond most mid-size and small enterprises. And now with a monthly fee, you can get access to that kind of equipment now and that kind of services. I think coming from the enterprise, it was always frustrating and always very difficult in the enterprise world, where you've got an IT budget that's 90% run and 10% get better. It was the normal ratio years and years ago. And having the ability to see ways to make that more efficient, but not be able to jump on it quickly, or it be a 3-year program of works, was always very frustrating. And I think this the world we live in now, where these services are available and we can get to market so fast on business improvements. And now we like giving this stuff to smaller enterprise and mid-sized business about the ability where we can turn that 90-10 ratio of spend to improvements way down, turn that dial. That's, to me, that's what the democratizing bit is about not spending money on keeping lights on, spend money on improving, and which we can do now with automation and lots of other things and improvements in Microsoft Cloud services. We can make this stuff really hum and work really well, and really bring down the incidents and really bring down the things that get in the way of doing business to a bare minimum these days, which is to me, that's the pleasure I get out of it. I've been trying to do it my whole career, and I've got a lot of the tools to be able to do it now.
It's great. Thank you, Ian. Maybe I'll just go 1 or 2 more slides, because how could we possibly have a webinar in this day and age without mentioning AI? And I'm going to ask Lax, because you're starting that journey right in a minute about that, right? But obviously there's a lot of interest and a lot of trends happening in the AI space, and again, I think the adoption of cloud services really lift that and make you that way more powerful than you could do with on-prem, just because you can't access the data like you can. And again, QCs are looking to move in that direction and support our clients as we do move that way. Yeah. A slide I do like to bring up on a regular basis is just how quickly that has happened, right? So we barely seem to have uttered the words AI, and it's everywhere, right? And that adoption rate there is, you can see across those different technologies, to get to 100 million users, right, on mobile phones, on internet, on Facebook even, right? And then the way that ChatGPT has moved and the adoption of AI is phenomenal, right? So it's here and it's impacting it. And I think as IT professionals, we want to make sure that we're not creating more shadow IT, right? And that we actually get control of that and help our businesses adopt it safely, right? And we'll talk a little bit about that in a second. And not let that shadow IT and people go and taking data and information outside of the business, because we're not facilitating that as IT professionals. Now, we've done lots of setting the scene, so thanks for your patience, guys. And let's get into talking about some of the stuff at our clients. And well, again, I'm going to start with you, Lax. I titled this, and I went and did use some AI graphics there from the designer when we're putting some slides together. Yeah. But I was really interested to see, having worked with you for 5 years, and I know you've had a couple of promotions, as we were talking about earlier during that journey, right? So you've come up through the ranks. How do you feel that the adoption of cloud from the on-prem situation when you were about to move office to where you are today, how has it freed you as a professional, and how has it freed your business? Yeah, so it's a bit of a story, Paul. So obviously in 2019, actually, late 2018, we were thinking about our next step, which is, planning a physical move, and also thinking about, what's out there in terms of technology. So we reached out to KPMG and we asked them for help, and they recommended 2 suppliers. Now there are 2, Cubesys was one of them. So I'm with you guys. So our whole, because we're quite big on security and privacy based on the clientele that we have. And our main point was that, as long as it's on-prem and it's locked behind a cupboard, your data's safe. So that was our, security approach. So as long as you're not leaking anything, having a presence online, your data is safe. At the same time, our hardware was super old, and it was like some of them didn't have support. So that's one of the things I learned when Cubesys came into our premises and did like an audit, and then they identified certain servers where out of the support level, and also some of the softwares are being super legacy software as well. So and then we decided to do the cloud, and then I spent a bit of time in the Cubesys office trying to understand what 365 offers. As Paul mentioned, it's turning on little features on and off, and they'll give you a lot of enhance your productivity. So that journey was quite challenging, but again, I'm not
saying this because I'm here. I'm not getting paid to say this, but Cubes is being there to guide us through that whole journey really, made my life easier. And having the right people. So Andy and Benoit were quite, pivotal in that whole setup, and the other guys in the back end as well, helping us out. So obviously we moved on from on-prem to cloud. It freed up some time in my diary, because when we had an on-prem system, I would have to physically come in to the company and change the backup tape. So that applied during Christmas time as well. So while people were having Christmas, break, I would come into the office and then change the backup tape. But having everything in the cloud obviously keeps us, 99.9%
Actually,
time.
Let me ask you a question. So you mentioned earlier that you had systems that were hardware and operating systems that were out of support, right?
Yeah.
How many systems have you got out of support today?
None.
No,
to be honest.
I thought I knew the answer there. And how much time do you worry about maintaining something? Right. So one of the big things for me is that, and being in infrastructure for many years, how much time and effort and therefore budget we would have put into just keeping the lights on, staying at where we should be.
Yeah.
Right? When you've got physical kit on prem, when we adopt cloud, that evergreen approach means that you don't spend the time and budget doing that, and then you're free to go and do the next thing.
That's exactly right. I think the biggest thing is with Cubes is the proactive support. So even though if I forget to renew a license, I will get an email from Cubes saying, hey, this is coming up for renewal. So then I'm like, oh yeah, that's good. Whereas before, I wouldn't, if I missed out an email, I wouldn't know until the service get cut off. So I think that's the biggest thing, the proactive thing. And it's quite hard to do in an IT environment because most of our work is quite reactive, but proactively doing the things prior to things expiring, that's a big positive for us. And then throughout the journey, and as Cubes was growing, we were growing as well. So we started off with 40 odd staff members, and now we're up to 65. And that's based around all in Australia, Sydney, Brisbane. But the biggest thing is having the ability to connect, we can seamlessly connect our laptops to the Brisbane office without, typing in the Wi-Fi password. So things like that, little things where people would just say, oh, wow, that was super awesome that I was able to connect my laptop. Just walk in the office. Walk in the office. So little things like that does go a long way. And then it's talking about AI. So our next journey is trying to roll out AI to
might actually get you to pause that, so I'm going to come back to that and talk, because I really want to see about that future plan that you've got and how and the challenges that we're helping you address there. But that's awesome. So we really to summarize that Lax, is that you've been able to not worry about things that didn't add value to the business, that maintenance stuff that just had to happen. That no longer is a problem. Things are always up to date, always secure, right? And you're looking at what next, which is what we'll talk about in the short slide. But I might skip across to Dan. You've been waiting there patiently. And when we were doing the prep for this call, and we had a briefing call on that, you talked to me about Maslow's. Is that going to come across? There we are. Get a slide up. Maslow's hierarchy of needs, and then how you use that to model what's happening in your IT services inside your business. So, do you want to just start by telling us a little bit about your size and shape and Skier? I mean, I personally know that quite well, but be good for the audience to get across that. And then we're interested to see how you leverage Maslow's hierarchy of needs in IT.
That's fine. And look, apologies for any psych majors on the call. I'll probably butcher this dramatically. So look, if you forgive me for that would be great. Look, SIA, or Spinal Cord Injuries Australia, we're probably 220 people deep, but then we're also a for-purpose organisation. So we have a bunch of other partners and or volunteers that work with us as well. So in terms of seats and total heads, we're a tick over 300 when it comes to size. What we do, we're around Australia in a bunch of different areas. We're in lots of the East Coast hospitals in unit. We're in advocacy and policy across the country, but also in specialised rehabilitation and exercise clinics around the country, a bunch of NJS services. So we do a lot of in the non-for-profit disability space, advocating for people with spinal and neurological conditions. So that's sort of who we are and the size of what we do. And yeah, Paul, when you were talking about this, it actually prompted me. So I didn't know about this beforehand. I knew about Maslow's needs, but as I thought about what it is that CubeSys brings to the table for us and how it works for us, I thought about all of the things that, and this might sound bad, but all the things that we don't have to worry about, and all the things that I don't need to think about on a day-to-day basis, and or couldn't afford to do on a day-to-day basis, which frees me up to do other things. So for me, it started to come down to this little model here in terms of the, what are the things that I have to have sorted? These are the things, to run an organization, these have to be there. But I don't have to worry about them because I know that CubeSys takes care of that sort of stuff. So, basic infrastructure stuff, we've got connectivity, we've got power, we've got the hardware that we need, we've got software and operating systems, we've got data storage and all that sort of stuff. We got that squared away, and that's fine. Before then, we can move up the ladder, I guess, up the rungs and start moving into security and reliability. We none of us wants to be on the front page of a newspaper going that we've had a data breach or that we've had some issue with exposing sensitive information. And just like you, Lex, we also have a bunch of sensitive information about our clients that we take quite seriously. So yeah, making sure things are backed up, they're secure, we're compliant with all the relevant regulations around the place, that we're also got some stability and also redundancy. So, if we do have an outage, what's going to happen here? So as we move up, that our needs become greater, but then it frees us up over time to do greater things. So we probably push up into, what do we do now that we've got the house in order? And we might push into comms tools, and everybody nowadays is using things like Teams and other collaborative platforms that CubeSys help manage for us and make sure that we have all the right policies in place, content sharing, access, security, all that's in place to be able to do that. I guess, Lex, we started a little bit later in our journey into the remote working environment. I think we got thrust onto it with COVID. So we'd started the conversation about, physical on-prem versus cloud-based. But with COVID, we kind of just got pushed into 100% cloud-based. So for us, getting remote access or the ability to run things from home became an absolute sort of ticket to the game, and we needed to do that in a secure manner, as well as then innovate whilst we were working from home. So having this collaborative, communicative approach to what we do. Before then, we kind of move into starting to talk sort of and Ian, you talk about the 10,000 seat organizations, the things at the big end of town, CRM and ERP and all of the efficiencies that you drive through standardized processes and all that sort of stuff. So being able to invest time and effort into deploying end-to-end solutions. And for us, we're end-to-end in the Microsoft stack, actually, Paul. So we got Business Central and Dynamics 365 end-to-end on top of our M365 E5 product suite. So we've got a very rare opportunity to have a greenfield, vertically integrated M365 stack, which then allows us to move and push further up the chain into the innovation and growth space. And for us, and for me as sort of leading our innovation and growth for our organization, this is where the value is for us. And none of this would have been possible without having all of the other layers in order. So for us, making today a better place for people with disability doesn't happen without the rest of that lining up and being in place. And 250 people might sound like a lot, but for an NFP, we don't have a lot of resources to deploy into non-client facing services. So making sure that we invest our money wisely. We don't have a team of developers and a team of people to support. And we definitely couldn't get to the point where we're, that self-actualization, we're not in that space if we're spending all of our time and effort focused on the basic infrastructure. So I guess, Paul, as I thought about the model and I thought about what does it mean to us to have CubeSys as part of the family, we don't get to the top of this pyramid without having support to get there, mate. So.
Isn't it pleasing that the services we're talking about here have allowed you to look outwards and look at servicing the people that really matter, the people that you're there to service, the disability community, right? And like you're saying, if you were spending resources on, like we used to do in the old world, like the basic infrastructure. I mean, I was an infrastructure manager for many years looking after data centers, and that's hard work, right? And there's a lot of effort that's required into everything from cables and maintaining hard disks and server replacements and all that stuff. And you forget that you don't need to do that right anymore. And then you talk about security and liability, like the security and liability we get from those services from Microsoft are phenomenal these days. Right? People, if there's a little outage or problem, the whole world's up in complaining, but it's phenomenal compared to what we used to have to do to get to that sort of level of reliance and the level of security. The signals that Microsoft get are phenomenal, right? And nobody can do security like them because nobody's seeing as much activity, right? And so having those sort of things in your back pocket and not having to focus on them and you focus on your business is exactly why we're here, and that's music to my ears. That's what we should be doing for you, so that I don't want you thinking about IT. I want you thinking about how you make a difference in your business, right? And that's also, I think it's a really eloquent. It might upset some psych majors, but I think it's quite an eloquent way of describing that. And that pyramid of needs is really important. Interestingly, and I'll maybe ask you both this one then. Dan, you mentioned that COVID made you be able to work remotely and then push the envelope. And I remember we just had to do a couple of tweaks for you and get going. But both of you were in cloud before COVID. Mm-hmm. Now, we helped a lot of businesses and a lot of government departments during that time that didn't have that capability and weren't in cloud and weren't a cloud first business. And that was really painful, right? For you guys, like, what impact do you think COVID had when you had to work remotely? Maybe we'll start first.
Sure. So before the cloud, we used to RDP into our server through a VPN,
yes.
And that was super slow. So people hated that, and they would always complain to me saying, "Oh, can we speed it up?" But as you mentioned, when COVID hit, we had no choice, and it was just business as usual.
So
like there was no lag or no any downtime, nothing. Everyone was on Teams calls.
Yeah.
But
so you could focus on the business and the people, and not so much on the technology, because
exactly.
The technology just worked. Right?
Correct.
And already had MFA in place, already secure. We knew this device was going to be good. All we needed was an internet connection,
correct,
and you could work.
Right? Yeah. Because a lot of people were asking, "Oh, do I need a VPN connection? Do I need anything special to connect?" I was like, "Nope. All you need is an internet connection. Rest will be taken care of." So
good. So
super easy.
Yeah. And Dan, for you, I think we needed to rush to turn on MFA from memory, right, for some of the users, which was interesting. Do you know what I really like about the COVID era was IT got done in a ridiculously short time, and this happened across our client base. So in all sorts of big government departments and things, we just made things happen, and that went pretty smoothly for you guys, right, as well. That was.
Yeah, look, we when I joined the organisation, we had a history of technology not always working for us and change being something that was difficult. And I guess with COVID, we got a chance to rewrite that book a little bit. So you mentioned MFA, Paul, very, very interesting. I was told when I joined that we could that in our organisation, it was going to be too much of a challenge. But when push came to shove, we decided that we'd do this, and then implementation, we started on a Friday. We started this process to not just enroll but enforce MFA, and by Monday midday we had the whole organization, so every single person within the organization within the space of Friday lunch and Monday lunch up and running within MFA. So for us it gave us a good, I wouldn't say excuse to do some of the things we couldn't do, but it definitely brought forward and created a space where we would be able to accept these changes, Paul. I think if I just touch on a bit of our mission for a minute, which might help premise that, sometimes things aren't as easy for people with disability as it might be for you and I. So, getting to work, if you've got a commute and you're in a chair, or if you're looking for disabled parking, these things aren't always as easy as it is for the normal person. So for us and for some people with specific disabilities, working from home is actually a blessing because they're set up to do the things that they need to do in a repeated basis in the best way they can be. So pulling forward these capabilities, in essence, because culturally we had to adapt, created an environment for my staff where they could work from home, and it would be not just accepted, but they would be as productive or more productive, was sensational for our cohort in that space. So for us, it wasn't just technology, it was also for purpose, which was great as well.
It's funny how people are holding back because they were nervous about adopting a technology like that. But when you actually, were forced into it, it got adopted very quickly, effectively, right, and with very little disruption, right. But I don't remember there being a huge number of tickets about MFA and things. Obviously, one or two people probably needed help, but it was overall pretty smooth, right. And it's so pleasing, and we encourage all our clients to have MFA on, because it's just like one of the building blocks of security, and we should have it. Right? So it's great that that happened for you, and the benefits of being not just to be able to react and work during that COVID period, but ongoing. Right? As you're saying, you can now facilitate people working from home safely, securely, and that makes a big difference against the mission that you're trying to achieve. Right?
Absolutely.
It's just look ahead now. Right. Let's think about the future a little bit more. Right. So we've got great cloud services. We're effective. We're working, and we can now start turning our mind to what next. Right. And Alex, I'll start with you again, because I know that you've engaged us to start looking at Copilot. Do you want to tell us what your thinking is, and why you're looking at that, and why you came to us for some help?
Yeah, thanks, Paul. So, like with everyone else, obviously ChatGPT is making a lot of waves in the business and personal environments. So we had a couple of fund managers like creating their own AI system, obviously tapping into OpenAI's.
So that shadow IT starting to.
Yep.
So
they were showing us some cool things that they were doing, like KPMG with their Kim Chat, and then and a couple of others. So and then we decided to do a presentation to our clients about what AI is and what it can do, and how it can, impact or improve our day-to-day business requirements. And then obviously we weren't sure how we can utilize it until Copilot was released by Microsoft. And I thought it would be a good opportunity for us to see how that can utilize with our day-to-day stuff. I think the biggest thing for us is trying to tell people that use it as a tool. We're not trying to replace anyone's jobs.
Yes.
Because a lot of people think, AI is going to take over my job, so why should I, use it and whatnot. I think that was the biggest perception, letting them know, and also trying to have control around what type of data they're putting in, because we don't encourage users to put client personal data into ChatGPT, but at the same time we don't have any security around it. So we don't know what people are looking up on ChatGPT, what's posting to ChatGPT. We had a funny story where one of the accountants ended up providing a report to one of their senior managers based on some type of tax law. And then that person quickly picked up that it didn't apply to us, and it didn't make sense, even though it had the right terminology and everything. Mm-hmm. So I think the biggest thing is trying to, like I said, using it as a tool, always fact check. Once you get the response, make sure it obviously relates to you, and then the answer is what you're after. So for us, we end up creating this AI committee that kind of taps into different part of the organization. So the investments, accounting, legal, admin, and IT. And then we're trying to understand how we can basically identify to improve our day-to-day operations, like how the investment team can synthesize data and then get information out of it, how the admin team can perhaps replicate certain formatting for board papers. And then they're like the main items that we're trying to tick off the list, but obviously it's just it's unknown what else it can do. So our main goal is to identify 3 use cases how we can utilize AI to improve our day-to-day business, and having CubeSys, having the right personnel. So we had the kickoff meeting last week, having the right personnel so that who knows our environment and knows this latest technology, makes my life easier, as I said before. So
good there. Look, and you touched on a few important points there. I think for us, when we're starting this journey with our clients and looking at Copilot and how to bring it into the M365 world in particular, but obviously there's lots of different Copilots, but we've heavily focused on that one, is first of all, you need guardrails, right? So we want to make sure that the data's safe, right? And when we ask Copilot to put together an answer for us, or create a document that we're actually able to put some security around the data that it's using to do that. And what I mean by that is some people in the organization shouldn't have access to some of the data. An obvious one is HR, right? Yeah. So, the HR department shouldn't be letting, and if you haven't got the security and tagging and labeling and things set up properly inside of SharePoint and Teams and email and all that systems in M365, then you have got a risk of exposing that data to the wrong people in the wrong time. So first things first, we've got to get that data governance and guardrails in place. And then, as you were talking about, it's like finding those use cases and then finding the right way to use it. And I don't think there is one right answer to that. Maybe I'll get you to chip in on. You've been involved in some of our conversations here in internally, right? So how to use Copilot and when to use it there's a myriad of different ways, right? And we're still sort of learning.
Yeah, everything from like there's a bit of a key phrase, but like prompt engineering, right? So it's around asking what you needed to ask. But I think that key point around finding the right data is that we know with enterprise experience, even people may not have known they had access to confidential data because they didn't have a way to go and find it, like a link or something, but because of issues or bad groupings or just basic administrative errors, some which may have been years ago, they have access to data, even though they can't necessarily put the finger on it. But you put Copilot into an organization and start to index and start to look for an organization, it will find it. It will go and get it. So that's just we need to be really, really careful on that. And that audit process of where the data is and what it's doing is super important. There's lots of other things we can use AI for, like in our support services. We've started to try and use it there. There's some obvious chatbot, kind of repetitive task type work that we look at with AI, but it's such a Swiss Army knife around how it can behave and what it can do, but we're still learning on it. But like I said, the process we've gone through ourselves is to audit our own data and set up our own environment to make sure that we're secure, that people can only see what they need to see, and that the information that's coming out of it is auditable and correct as possible. Because garbage in, garbage out still exists in AI's not clever enough to please still needs.
I think he still only gets sort of 80% of the way there, but he does save a heck of a lot of time when you're creating something. You just got to remember to get Copilot to do that rather than do it yourself, right? Whether that be a spreadsheet or Word document, a presentation, it's interesting. Dan, have you got any future plans in this space? Where's your organisation looking?
I think you'd be a little bit buck-and mad, Paul, if you don't have AI in your future, at least for considerations. You need to just sort of look at the competition and consider what they might be doing to say, well, not why can I, or how can I afford this, but how can I afford not to do this? So I think for us, it's not just are we going to do this? It's going to be how are we going to do this? And there's for us a whole heap of use cases. I think the efficiency route, I think as you pointed out, Lax, we're already started on our efficiency route journey. So a bunch of things when it comes to process automation, AR, AP automation is absolutely something that we've already started on. We've been doing the AP.
Lax mentioned this earlier, sorry to put in, but the point was everybody I've spoken to so far when we looked at AI is not about replacing people, it's about getting more done, right? And that's the so efficiency and effectiveness is where you were taking that conversation. I think that's everybody's wanting to, nobody's looking to remove people by doing this. They're looking to get more done, right, with the people they have.
Get more done and push people up in that pyramid further towards the top. So we're spending time in the value adding stuff as opposed to spending time in really things that aren't value adding at all. So, generating a statement, processing an invoice, rereading things that just could be summarized, meeting minutes and notes, all things that we've sort of squared away for us as things that, we could have a bot do that, or, basic training and induction type materials. We had something fun that we put to the team: answer 5 questions and we'll create your bios for you. So we've got website bios, we've got social bios, and then we've just had a bit of a fun one. So staff input these 5 questions into your Dynamics profiles and we automatically generate a bunch of bios for them. So, even having a bit of fun with it. So to get people on board and understand what we could do, what the future could be like. There's also things, Paul, that we've been doing, but yeah, the list is long. The list is long, Paul. Yeah.
It is where to focus, which is interesting that you're committees looking at trying to find those three impactful solutions. And you're right, Dan. It's about that pyramid. It's not, that pyramid doesn't exist just for IT. It's just for all the other departments. And if we as IT professionals can help facilitate them moving up that pyramid, that's fantastic, right? And Copilot certainly is one of the things that do that. Personally, I've been using Copilot for a few months now, and I couldn't live without the meeting notes alone, let alone anything else it does, because I don't want to have to go back and write all those anymore. And it's got better, right? I mean, I think they are occasionally there's a funny spelling or word or something in there, or it's missed some context, but most of the time it's pretty damn accurate, and the actions that come out of it are very good, right? Yeah. So you must be looking forward to getting your hands on that, Lex. Yeah. That's good. Cool. I don't know if anybody else has got anything they want to chip in on that AI or future state things, but we did have one more sort of discussion topic or end of a conversation, and I might surprise you that I dragged this into the slide deck. But we talked about cost savings and cost avoidance, and it's all sort of linked into the adoption of cloud and cloud services and things like AI, right? So we thought, and to that point, we were talking about with raising effectiveness and not removing people, but making them more effective. It's not about necessarily saving money off the bottom line. So if people come to cloud and want to reduce their costs in IT, that's maybe not the objective they should have. What they should be looking to do is avoid costs that they should be spending in the business, right? Or could be spending in the business, like maintaining old kit and changing tape, so on a regular basis, right? And then moving towards that top end of the pyramid again, right? So we had some quite good discussions, I think, around cost savings and cost avoidance and the difference between them. I might get you to start us off, Dan, in a second, but I'd point out that spelling is not me. That's AI designer. I don't know what AI is wonderful and does all sorts of wonderful things, but it doesn't seem to be able to spell, right? It's got some of my dyslexic traits, right?
Paul, I've got a hot tip for anyone who wants to use the AI generated images. Put them into Canva, and Canva's got this thing called Magic Eraser, or Magic. It'll identify the text, and then you can just type it in. So even though the AI will always have the spelling mistakes, use Canva and it sorts it out 100%.
Yeah. Awesome. I didn't know that one. Well, that's a good tip. I'll start using that, because whenever you do that designer, it really is quite amusing, some of the spelling that comes out of it, right?
It's woeful. I genuinely believe it's a feature, 100% baked in feature.
And did it also, we had a bit of a giggle at one of our internal meetings. I think Sylvan, our business partner, used it to generate some images, and one of the guys had three arms and two coffees in one side and now on the other side. So we felt that was appropriate for CubeSys. We do like our coffees here, right? So an extra arm for coffees in might be good evolution. Human body. But no, seriously, that conversation we were having done at the end of our briefing around cost avoidance versus cost savings is really important. I think as an IT department, we take the right vernacular to our business, right? It isn't necessarily about reducing costs. It's about avoiding, like, where we could be spending budget that we can better use, right? And we thought that was a really important point to get across to the audience, right? Was that we should really focus on avoiding silly costs like the maintenance and things that we had on-prem, right? And really moving not so much those cost savings, because we can always use the budget, right?
I think the other thing too, Paul, if I just take 30 seconds, that everyone will build into a bunch of plans their own versions of DR. They've got redundancy baked into all sorts of on-prem systems and solutions, and it's kind of a forgotten cost. All of those sort of DR solutions, whether you go to TAS, PaaS, SaaS, or whatever you want to use, those sorts of backup redundancy systems are all baked in now to the product suite. So they're a really good example for me of the cost avoidance just sort of disappears. All of the things that you hope you never have to use are now part of as a service offerings, which means it's straight to the bottom line. So you'll have cost savings, but the cost avoidance is just blown away by some of those things that are now baked into these offerings.
Absolutely. Anything to add to that, Lex?
I think for us, Paul, it's mainly to do with the different services that you offer. For example, the on-site support service that you guys offer for us, which is quite awesome, because initially we don't have to worry about the whole cost around, looking for talent, spending money on HR and all that stuff. Yeah. Whereas you guys already have the talent in-house. Yeah. and obviously we can trust, the zero access to our on-prem, cloud admin center and everything. So we can actually trust the service technicians who are going to be on-prem, to like have access to that. So I think that's the biggest thing that I think that has impacted our business, just finding like a good using costs around, finding talent, and then spending on like HR and work cover and all that stuff.
Yeah. So because people got on leave, you had to simplify in there.
Yeah.
How do you sort of balance that? And
the key man risk. Trying to mitigate the key man risk.
Yeah.
So that's the big thing.
Well, it's a nice segue as we start to sort of round up the webinar. So we've focused a lot today about how the cloud services really benefit our organisations and lift us to do more and look at where the mission of our organisation is and things. And it's great to hear that the two of you and you're great clients of ours, and it's awesome that you've both re-signed at least once, I think maybe twice, right? And we continue the journey together. And you're getting value from our relationship, but it isn't just the cloud services that you need, obviously, to do that. You need people with the skills to be able to do that. And back to that democratizing cloud statement in our vision statement about bringing the skills that we've developed in our professional services business at the really big end of town and leveraging them down for the small clients, 65 people and down a couple hundred people. But when CubeSys started, we only really worked with people with tens of thousands of users, right? And our professional services business still does that type of work, but we're able to bring some of that knowledge and capability to an appropriate price point and really leverage those cloud services for you guys as much as we can. And that's what we hope we do for you. So it's really nice to hear that you're getting some benefits out of it.
Yeah.
Would you say that you see that as well, Dan, or is in your side of this, that relationship that you've got that broad skill set that you can rely on? Is that important to you?
I think that's a definite, Paul, and it's becoming increasingly important. I think on some of the slides you put the ChatGPT 0 to 3 months to market. Like you only have to look at things like that and the investment in NVIDIA and chips to say that product and service development and the pace is only going to increase. It's only going one way, and there's no possible way that we can keep up with what's going on and what's happening in market by ourselves. So actually having people with the technical professional expertise be across the product suite and the development and then technically advised, you just wouldn't be able to do it if you were left to your own devices. So I think it's becoming more and more critical, Paul, as the pace picks up.
Yeah. Look, and for me personally, it's wonderful to hear that you guys can focus on your businesses, right, and not worry about the IT and know that you've got, we've got your back and we're here for you. And as new things come out like Copilot, that we keep up to date and keep pushing that envelope. Ian, do you want to add any sort of final comments from yourself? And
I was just thinking that about the last, how to sum up and just some of the thoughts going through my head based on the conversation. And the cost avoidance and cost savings is always a good conversation. If you go to me, cost savings is too hard is a race to the bottom, and cost avoidance, it always bears more fruit. I will talk for hours to anyone that listens to me about. We're not really spoke about it here much is business risk and other such things that this helps as well. Not just there's more to outside of the finance side, but there's that. But I think just try and bring it right back to the way we started our conversation, Paul. Like, the reason why me and you got on so well together and worked well together is I can vividly remember having a couple of beers with you and just going, there's so much good stuff in IT, but it's so hard to get it done, right? It's so difficult to get anything done anywhere, and it's so hard. And that's kind of, I think we both shared that vision of there's got to be a better way of doing this. And 9-10 years later, the tools are there available for us now. And we both genuinely enjoy doing this work and enjoy helping organizations do this and use it, because we both enjoy the new toys as well, right? We're both technical people. We're very on point with what's new and how to do it, and we're very hands-on about it. So I really like spending time with our customers. It's good to have both of you on here to hear your stories. And normally we're talking in an operational sense, so it's really good to talk to you in this kind of context as well, which is really good. But no, I'll circle it back to the way we started the call, and I'll stop talking. Otherwise, I'll talk for another half hour. So I'll be quiet.
It's always good, and I couldn't agree more with the alignment and the excitement that I think cloud services gave for me. I was actually thinking of exiting IT 12 years ago-ish, and then cloud arrived. And one of my frustrations as an IT manager was that I spent a lot of time saying no to the business, right? And it was driving me nuts because they were coming at with a new request for an application or a service that they needed, and you had to, you know, it took you 3 months to get the hardware into the data center so you could actually install the app. We didn't have the capacity there to do that sort of stuff, right? And it was hard work. And it was my job, as particularly in infrastructure rather than on the app side, was always saying no, right? And it was frustrating. Cloud turns up and I can have a server up and running in minutes, right? And not 3 months. I don't have to do a bomb and go and negotiate pricing and all those other things we used to do, right? Now I go, well, what size do you want? And off we go. And that is, for me, although the technology is exciting, what really exciting for me is that I can say yes to the business and we can move forward and we can try something. And if it doesn't work, we can always turn it off again and let's go and try something else. So I love being able to say, yes, let's move, right? So there's this good way to round out there, I think, Ian. Any final comments, guys, before I say thank you for your time? Like to add anything in, Dan?
No, but I hope that whoever's been watching has found it useful. It's always good to get together and have a bit of a chat about these things. You don't get to spend the time to do it very often, or at least when you're running a million miles an hour. So it's great to be invited to sort of sit down, take stock, and have a chat, Paul. So thank you very much.
Appreciate it. Thank you very much for your time, Dan, and some lovely insights and great stories from you there. And Max, anything from you?
No, I think thank you. I mean, and for Cubes is for, like, you know, making our lives easier. That's the main thing.
Awesome. Thanks so much. Well, thanks everybody for joining us, and hopefully there's some nuggets there that you can take away. And as we mentioned at the beginning of the webinar, we do record these sessions and we'll have them up on our YouTube channel, and we'll pick out some snippets to share with you and send out the slide deck. So thank you all for joining us, and thank you for your time. Dan, Max, again, thank you very much. And thanks, Ian. Cheers.
Thank you. Bye.
Goodbye, everybody.